What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Monday grind. You know, Mondays always seem to be the hardest day to go back to work, especially after you've been out of town for 3 days. Pretend today is yesterday because I'm filming this on Sunday. And yeah, I just got back from Lake Havasu. I was there for 3 days of fun on the boat. But here we are, back in town, back to the motovlogging. And in case you're wondering why my bike is quieter than normal, it's because I'm on this today. Yeah, I'm back on the Suzuki 1000. The Aprilia had to go to the shop the other day. It sprung a little water leak, so we're getting that looked into. I need some air moving, so let's ride. Oh boy, I'm sweaty Betty. So I know a lot of you guys ask yourself that have been riding or want to start riding, maybe have some experience on dirt bikes, like, am I ready for a 1000? Just how much power do these things have? And before we get into that, let's talk about some other stuff first. One thing I want to do is I want to tell you guys about my progression to riding 1000s. When I was really young, not obviously, but if you know my history, you know I spent a lot of time on dirt bikes riding and racing motocross. So I was on dirt bikes a lot in my youth. And then when I was about 16, the local motocross track, Corona Raceway, wanted me to pass out flyers to all the local dealers. And the guy that ran the program, my good buddy Ron Crandall, rest in peace, what he did was he put me on his, I think it was a 1974 Honda CB 750. This thing was big. It was a big tank of a bike. And you know what, dude? I was only, okay, at 16 years old, I weighed 130 pounds. Don't worry, dude, I ain't gonna run your kid over. So yeah, so I started riding, at that time I was riding like the intermediate class on a Suzuki 125. And so I knew what I was doing on a motorcycle. I had all the motor skills, you know, and all that good stuff. And let me turn off this camera. I don't want to run this camera right now. Boom. So anyways, what I would do, I would take that CB 750 and I'd have a whole bunch of flyers printed out for the local Grand Prix race they were running at the motocross track. And I would ride around to all the local dealers and put stacks of them on their, you know, their parts counters. So here I am, this, you know, 130 pound runt ripping around town on a CB 750. Now granted, 750 cc's back then is not near as powerful as now, but that bike was really no problem for me. So that was how I began riding street bikes. I took a long time off riding street bikes at all. I had a buddy gave me his Triumph triple. I think it was like a 900 and something cc triple, which I ripped around on that for about 3 months. Yeah, I just really started riding street full time, maybe 7 years ago. And I started off on a Honda VFR 800 only because that's what my boss had and I wanted to buy it off him. I thought it was a cool looking bike. I still have that bike. And then, you know, then I bought this 1000 and then I bought my Aprilia 1000. So I have all 3 bikes now, the 800 and the 2 1000s. I guess my point is, if you grew up riding dirt bikes, like riding motocross and stuff, I mean, you know bikes, you know what they can do. You got really good motor skills with your hands and your feet. You know, you don't even have to think when you ride, pretty much. It just happens for you. Oh my God, I really need this light to turn green. Please, please, please. So I think in a big way, if you grew up, I can't take it no more. I gotta move. It's ridiculous. I'll go this way. So yeah, point being, if you've ridden motocross bikes quite a bit, you could quite possibly bump straight to a 1000. I don't want to take liability for like you jumping on a 1000 and wiping yourself out. I mean, you know what you can and can't handle. You know, 600 might be better just to get acclimated to how these things turn. You know, you don't want to go into a turn too hot and wipe yourself out. But personally, me speaking, I technically think I pretty much started off on a 1000. I never had a 600. I'm not a big fan of the 600. I mean, it's a great bike for a lot of people, but I've always been power hungry dude. I tell you what, I love power on motorcycles. When I was 14 years old, my big brother, his buddy left his CZ 400 at my house. This is way back, people. I'm not going to give away my age, but it was a long time ago when CZ actually made a 400. I was 14 years old, and I basically stole the bike out of our garage, jumped on it, and ripped it up to the local motocross track up in the hills. And I was just this little dude riding a 400, and I loved it, dude. I didn't crash. I just knew what I was doing. And then when I rode motocross, I always liked I was riding a CR 500 back in the day. Those things were beasts. And then I rode the 450 Pro class, and I've just always been on the big bore bikes, so I like a lot of power in my bikes. I've ridden 600s, and what I don't like about them is they don't have any power at all until about 6,000 or 7,000 RPMs, maybe 8,000. And when you're going down the freeway, these guys, those bus drivers, think they own the road, man. They'll just pull out right in front of you if you ain't careful. Anyhow, yeah, when you go down the freeway on a 600, they just feel like they're laboring. They're just trying too hard, revving too high, whatever. They're just not for me. Not to say it's not the perfect bike for you. I'm actually on my way to Kaiser Hospital right now. I have a little experiment I'm doing that's coming up in a video coming up, and I need to grab something from there. But what I want to ask you guys before I talk anymore is I want to know about your experiences getting up to a 1000 if you ride a 1000 now, and put it in the comments, because a lot of people can read those comments and they'll learn also not only my experience but your experience on how you got, how you evolved to a 1000cc bike. So make sure in those comments below you let's hear your story, man. Okay, so like I said, I think if you've got experience on bikes, on dirt bikes, you could quite possibly go straight to a 1000 if you know what you're doing. I mean, the electronics on these things are so good to manage the power. They only go as fast as you want them to. The only problem is, myself including, we get on these things and every once in a while we just lose our head and get a little crazy and start riding faster than maybe our brain should go, and then we're getting into an oh shit moment real quick. I mean, that could happen, but that could happen on a 600, that could happen on a 400. The normal transition through bikes, if you're just learning how to ride, would be, get like a 300 or 400. I'm talking like the sport bikes. And then, oh man, this light doesn't know I'm here. And then evolve to a 600, and then evolve to a 1000. I mean, that's the norm, and that's like textbook way to do it. But not all of us want to follow the textbook. Some of us just want to get a 1000, go from a 300 or 400 to a 1000. It can be done. It depends on you, what you think you can and can't handle. So I don't think if you're now riding a small bore bike like a 400, and you have people telling you, no way, do not go to a 1000, you better ride a 600 first. I'm not buying it. I mean, that's just, obviously that's playing it safe, but I think there's other ways to go about it. The thing about a 1000, I will tell you, is, I seen a video from another moto vlogger, I'm not going to say his name, and he was comparing a 600 to a 1000, and he was like, yeah, there's really not that much difference. And I was watching the video, and I think my jaw pretty much hit the floor. I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I know you've ridden both. The power in a 1000 and how hard it hits and how fast it hits is night and day to a 600. I mean, you will rarely get a 600 to break the tire loose powering out of a corner, unless you're just an animal and you're on the gas super hard. On a 1000, it's a challenge to keep the tire from spinning. On my Aprilia 1000, it's a challenge to keep the the front end from coming up. I mean, not too many bikes will do that though. All right, I'm gonna go inside real quick and I'll be right back. All right, success. So here's the thing about a 1000cc bike. You just need to have your head on straight. You know, if you're just a wild man and you get on a 1000cc bike and you're not used to it, there's a good chance it's going to bite you back. You just need to be smart, man. I mean, if you're a more mature guy and you're just more conservative rider, yeah, the bike's only going to do what you make it do. You know, it only goes as fast as you make it go. I guess there's really just two ways to progress into a 1000cc bike. Either, I would say, number one is start off on dirt bikes and know how to ride bikes and grow up and then be mature enough to handle a 1000cc bike. I shouldn't say be mature enough. I should say be experienced enough. Or work your way up through the ranks. You know, the 400s, the 600s, to the 1000s. You know, that's as simple as that. But it seems to be a really popular question among the industry. You know, I mean, a lot of people wonder about, you know, are they good enough for a 1000cc bike? You may never know until you get one. Then it might be too late to be like, oh man, this bike is scary. I think I might just have to sell this thing. Get off your phone. I got no patience for people when they're on their phone. But there are some other things to consider with a 1000cc bike before you buy it, and that has nothing to do with skill. It's all about the bike's going to cost you more. It's going to cost you more to buy. It's going to cost you more to insure, probably a lot more if it's a full-on sport bike, even more than a 600. So I highly recommend do your research. Talk to your insurance company if you already have one. If not, talk to, price it around. I highly recommend AAA insurance because I have a lot of motorcycles I'm insuring, and I did a lot of research, and the best I could find was AAA. I think before them I had State Farm, and they wanted to ream me on my Aprilia. You know, you're going to burn through more fuel, but we don't really buy these bikes. I mean, some people buy bikes for fuel economy. Even though I ride my bike back and forth to work every day, I didn't really, care too much about economy because I knew I was doing way better fuel economy than being in my truck. But if you have a 1000, it's more about, hey, just power and performance. Yeah, so there you go. If you want to get a 1000, you've already heard what I got to say about it. Read the comments below and see what other people have done to transition to a 1000. I just recalled that I met a guy at a bike night, and he had a RC51 Honda, which is basically a 1000, and he's like, yeah man, this was my first motorcycle. I'm like, your very first motorcycle ever? He's like, yep. I was impressed, dude. I was like, wow. I mean, he may have been BSing me. He may have had dirt bikes when he was younger, but if that's not the case, I mean, it can be done. You just have to know what you're getting into and just learn to ride on the bike and keep the power within within your ability, because a 1000 has got more power than any of us can handle unless you're a freaking seasoned racer. I mean, my Aprilia 1000 is insane fast, and I'm not even tapping the amount of power that thing puts out. Anyways guys, I beat this topic to death. I'm gonna get out of here, go home and start editing. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday or whatever day you're watching this video on. I appreciate you hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next Monday.